Headphone Drive. DRE, from Compton streets to building a hip-hop empire. There are some stories that begin with talent. And then there are stories that begin with survival. Dr. Dre's story is both. Before the awards, the millions, the legendary records, and the business empire, there was a young kid growing up in Compton, California, surrounded by a world where simply making it out could feel like an impossible dream. Born Andre Rommel Young on February 18, 1965, Drive. Dre grew up during a turbulent time in Los Angeles. Music became more than entertainment for him. It became an escape. It became a language. And eventually, it became his way out. As a teenager, Dre became fascinated with DJs and the power they had over a crowd. He started spending countless hours learning how to mix records, studying sounds, beats, and rhythms. He wasn't thinking about becoming a billionaire. He wasn't thinking about building a global brand. He was simply trying to become better. And that obsession eventually led him into the world of hip-hop. In the mid-1980s, Dre became part of the world-class Wreckin' Crew before joining a group that would completely change American music, N.W.A. Alongside artists including Eazy-E, Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella, Dre helped create a sound that was raw, aggressive, and unapologetic. Their music reflected the reality they saw around them. It wasn't polished. It wasn't designed to make everyone comfortable. It was designed to tell the truth from their perspective. Then came, Straight Outta Compton. Released in 1988, the album became one of the most influential records in hip-hop history. Suddenly, the world was paying attention to Compton. And Dr. Dre was no longer just a young DJ with a dream. He was becoming a producer capable of changing the sound of an entire generation. But success didn't make everything easier. Behind the scenes, tensions within N.W.A. grew. Financial disagreements, creative differences, and personal conflicts eventually pushed Dre away from the group. In 1991, he left N.W.A. and began working with Suge Knight. Together, they created Death Row Records. And once again, Dre found himself at the center of a musical revolution. In 1992, he released his solo debut, The Chronic. The album introduced the world to a new sound, smooth, heavy, funky, and unmistakably West Coast. And there was another young artist standing beside him who would soon become a superstar. His name was Snoop Doggy Dogg. Dre's production helped turn Snoop into one of hip-hop's biggest voices, while The Chronic established Dre as one of the most important producers in the genre. But Dre's journey wasn't perfect. His relationship with Death Row eventually deteriorated, and in 1996 he left the label. Once again, he was walking away from something he had helped build. Some people might have looked at that as failure. Dre looked forward. He founded Aftermath Entertainment. At first, things didn't go exactly as planned. Then came a young rapper from Detroit who had been rejected, doubted, and overlooked. His name was Marshall Mathers, Eminem. When Dre heard Eminem, he recognized something special. The partnership changed both of their lives. Eminem became one of the biggest rappers in the world, while Dre's reputation as a producer reached another level. But perhaps one of Dre's greatest strengths wasn't simply his ability to make music. It was his ability to recognize talent. He helped mentor artists such as Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, and Kendrick Lamar, among others. And then Dre entered an entirely different world. Business. In 2008, Drive. Dre, Jimmy Iovine, and others launched Beats by Dr. Dre. What started as headphones became a massive cultural brand. The idea was simple: music should sound powerful, and the experience should feel personal. Beats became a global phenomenon. In 2014, Apple announced its acquisition of Beats for approximately $3 billion. Think about that for a moment. The kid from Compton who once dreamed of making music had helped build a company valuable enough to become one of the biggest acquisitions in Apple's history. But money wasn't the only measure of his journey. Dre had become a symbol of transformation. A producer, a rapper, a mentor, an entrepreneur, a survivor, and someone who understood that success isn't always a straight line. There were mistakes. There were controversies. There were broken relationships. There were moments when his future was uncertain. But he kept moving. And that's what makes his story fascinating. Because Drive. Dre didn't just create music. He helped create careers. He helped shape the sound of West Coast hip-hop. He helped bring artists into the spotlight who might otherwise have remained unknown. And his influence can still be heard in modern hip-hop today. One of the most powerful chapters came when Dre joined forces with Jimmy Iovine to establish the USC Jimmy Iovine and Andre Young Academy, created to help young people pursue education and innovation. Later, Dre also made a major donation to Compton High School, helping fund a new performing arts center. That part of the story matters. Because when you come from somewhere that gave you very little, giving something back can mean more than simply writing a check. It can mean telling the next generation, you can make it out. Dr. Dre's journey is not the story of someone who had everything figured out from day one. It's the story of someone who kept evolving. From DJ booths in Los Angeles, to N.W.A, to Death Row, to Aftermath, to Eminem, to Beats, to Billions, the journey has been anything but ordinary. And maybe that's the biggest lesson. Sometimes your first dream isn't the dream that makes you successful. Sometimes you have to lose something before you discover what you're actually capable of building. Dr. Dre started with turntables. Then he found production. Then he found artists. Then he found business. And eventually, he built an empire. But underneath all of it was the same thing that drove him as a teenager. The obsession to create something better. And that's why Drive. Dre's story isn't just about hip-hop. It's about ambition. It's about reinvention. It's about falling down, changing direction, and refusing to believe that your circumstances have the final say. Because sometimes, the person who comes from the hardest place doesn't just escape it. Sometimes, they build something so powerful that the whole world has to listen.